What's up, GameLeapers? Mr. Jizz back at it, and after talking for a few days about who the most OP champions are going to be come 11-14, I want to dampen the mood and reveal the 10 worst champions you can lock in for next patch. Now, don't get me wrong, you can still win on these picks, but by picking them in a solo queue environment, it's like you're starting the game in one giant hole. Now, our comment of the day comes in from Curve Crisis. Sounds like some sort of cyber dodgeball game, eh? And he says, when I go to a lane my team's not in, I just get the question mark ping because my team just got wiped mid for the 3rd time. Well, it wouldn't be League of Legends if that didn't happen. But to stop your teammates from inting when you are sidelining guys to master a champion, to master a role, to master the laning phase, everything you will ever need on Summoner's Rift is on our website, GameLeap.com. Our videos are made by challengers to help you become one of us, so separate yourself from all the hard-stuck silvers in the comments and sign up, links in the description and comment section. Alright, that was probably a little toxic, but let's get into the countdown, guys, and coming in at number 10 is Aphelios, and after the recent bust to Aphelios, especially in higher elos and pro play, you might even consider him a priority pick. But here's the thing, guys, I make these lists based on the entirety of solo queue, and it's still a fact that in lower elos, which is where most of us play, Aphelios is still struggling, and one of the reasons for this is simply because you don't have enough peel in your kit. You might have your Graviton route, but what else is there apart from that? Like, your support next to you has their monitor turned off, they're not even looking at their screen, so to actually survive not just during the laning phase when you're versing Blitzcrank and Morganas and Luxes in the bot lane, but in teamfights as well when the game starts opening up and you've got to worry about more angles, more champions flying onto you, like Zed, Kha'Zix, Camille, Riven, Fioras. How do I put it? Yeah, it's just impossible to survive. But because your damage is high, you actually stand a bit of a chance now, but still, in my opinion, I think it's way too risky to pick him, unless like you're an Aphelios main and you're duoing with your support and you have some sort of coordination there. I just think there are better picks to play in the ADC role. Now let's switch it up, guys, and head to the jungle, and coming in at number 9 is Udyr. And next patch, Udyr's going to be better off because Deadman's Plate, well, this armor is now going to be 45 and not 40, and yeah, that's about it. Apart from that, Udyr, on the whole, is just struggling. Ever since your base damage in your Phoenix stance got nerfed in 11-12, and even earlier in the season your base AD got reduced, Udyr has gone from being one of the premier junglers to now one of the worst. We've also got to think about the turbo chem tank nerfs as well, right? Because this item, with how strong Udyr was, this was a pretty deadly combination, but because these two, Udyr and turbo chem tank, have been nerfed multiple times since, they have been on the receiving end. And this is why Bigfoot's win rate is around 47%, and in 11-14, this really isn't going to change. So you're better off probably picking Rammus or Hecarim if you want to play a turbo chem tanking jungler. Now this countdown for 11-14, guys, to be honest, I'm trying to get as many ADCs on this list as possible. So coming in at number 8 is Kalista. Now Kalista is kind of like Aphelios. Yes, she's actually not that bad of a champion, but in solo queue, if you're playing in gold, platinum, diamond, even if you're playing in higher elos, she's incredibly hard to make work just because you have to play with pinpoint accuracy. Like, if you don't dodge everything, if you get slowed just once, it's over. And in lower elos, these problems are just compounded because you're not going to have your support playing that well. So it really is just like a 1v2 bot lane, and then in teamfights just a 1v5. And once again, playing Kalista, or if you're playing Aphelios, just seems way too stressful to make work. Like, you can just pick Jhin, you can just pick Kai'Sa or Tristana, and I know that sounds bad, right? But that's just the way the game is. I don't make the changes, by the way, so don't blame the jizz in the comments. But that is the state of ADC at the moment. If you don't have a champion who can actually fend for themselves, you are probably going to be on our worst champions videos. For Kalista as well, because Lulu, because Karma, because these other support to Shirelias are strong, Shirelias doesn't really work that well with you. It's better off on other champions like Kog'Maw, for example, Draven, who are the strong ADCs. So again, there are just other champions you can pick that are going to be more effective in that AD carry position. Now let's switch it up, guys, and go to the mid lane. And I want to talk about a mage here, and this might be a little controversial, but again, I'm thinking about a solo queue environment, right? So coming in at number 7 is Syndra. Now I understand with Luden's Tempest, with Sorcerer Shoes, you can one-shot people, but that's always been there, right? Phase Rush has been nerfed. Seeker's Arm Guard has been nerfed, which means, generally speaking, you are more killable. There's more opportunity to jump onto you and kill you. Whether you're the enemy mid laner, whether you're a jungler, you are just more accessible. So I'm going to give you one tip here that is going to improve Syndra's win rate across the board by like 5%. Probably not that much, but it is going to help you out, right? Lots of Syndras, when they have their E available, okay, they just use this on repeat. Guys, I'm telling you, your E is the most important ability you have. Your Q, your W, your ultimate, yes, these all do damage, but who really cares? Your E, if you don't have it, you are as vulnerable as they come in the mid lane. You are going to die 100% if you just move up without your E, and this is where champions like Zed, like Yasuo, like Yone, like Fizz, they can dubst you, and you go from 0-1 to 0-5 real quick, and the game is over. So in that laning phase, don't use your E unless the enemy champion is going for a CS, so you're pressuring them, or if you're trying to set up a gank for your teammate. Otherwise, just save it. You're creating pressure regardless if you're not using it, so it's still a good thing. And yes, even though Syndra does have damage, she still has a pretty low win rate in the mid lane, so she comes in at number 7. Now, beating her to the number 6 spot, remember how I said I wanted to fit as many ADCs on this list as possible? Well, number 6 is Xayah, and Xayah I think has been on this list for the whole season. I'm so sorry. And the only reason she's picked in pro play, you know, you might have seen her a few times, is just to counter Kai'Sa. That's it. There's no no other reason for it. Your ultimate is on a 3-second cooldown at rank 1. Like, how is that even fair? 3 minutes? Are you serious? For a champion that doesn't have any other form of peel, and remember, where you're playing in silver and gold, there is going to be no peel from your teammates. They don't care about you. They probably don't even realize what champion you're playing. So what I'm really saying is, it's just impossible to survive. The buff from last patch as well, which increased your Q's damage, like seriously, who cares about this? So for another patch this season, guys, I'm sorry to say, but Xayah is just in another pretty tough position, and this is why she comes in at number 6. Again, there are just better ADCs to pick. Now, starting off the top 5, guys, I know some of you don't really like these cooldowns because no one likes to hear, you know, who the worst champions in the game are, but I think it's important to tell you, you know, if you are going to play this game to win, some of these champions are just really hard to win on. So if you want us to continue these videos, let us know by leaving a like down below. And starting off the top 5, we have Azir. Now, Azir has improved a little recently, especially in higher relos, but higher relos is one thing. What about across the board, where like 90% of people play? Well, Azir is still the same champion. I just mentioned for Syndra, the Seeker's Arm Guard nerf. With Azir as well, the nerfs this season and, well, some of the buffs this season, they've been really questionable. Like the fact now, your auto attacks do more damage than your soldiers in the laning phase, like this is a joke. And because you really come online at around 2-3 items, like even when you get to level 6, even level 11, you're still not quite there. You need Luden's, you need Nash's Tooth, you need Sonya's Hourglass to survive team fights. It just takes 10,000 gold to actually become a champion, and most of the time in solo queue, like by your mythic power spike, the game's probably already decided. So even if you do get to like even 5-6 items, you're spending 40-45 minutes to win one game, whereas you could play a more meta champion in the mid lane and win in 20-25 minutes. So you get 2 wins instead of just 1 loss. So Azir comes in at number 5. Pretty interesting logic that, but yes, let me know in the comments what you think of that one. Now, beating Azir to the number 4 spot, well, I'm not sure about beating him to the number 4 spot, but this is Lucian, another mid laner who's also played in the AD carry role. And the simple reason for Lucian still being on this list, guys, is the fact that you're close range. Now, it sounds kind of stupid, right? Because there are other champions in the game who are good that are close range. But as Lucian, you have to stay at range, if that makes sense. You know, you can't just run up and headbutt and go in melee range, but it's kind of close to it. And this is super dangerous right now because there's so much stuff in the game that can cuck you, right? Like if you run up to a Camille, even if she misses her hook shot, she just ults you. If you run into a Stridebreaker, if you run into a Kentank, if you run into a Leona, there are just way too many champion kits and items in the game that can just stop you from doing what you want to do. Now, you might still have a strong early game and laning phase. You know, you're probably going to have priority all the time. You're going to get to your mythic spike for free. But even when you do get to Kraken Slayer or Gale Force, a bit like Kalista, Ophelia, or Xayah, all these other AD carries on this list, you have to play near perfect to just give yourself a chance of winning. It's not like you win because you play perfectly either. So again, Lucian is another one of these champions where there are just better picks to play in either the mid or bot lane, and he comes in at number 4. Now, starting off the top 3, guys, coming in at number 3. So we mentioned Syndra before. Well, there is one mage who is just worse than Syndra in this solo queue environment, and this is Orianna. And the reason Orianna is above Syndra, so we've got the Phase Rush nerf, we've got the Seeker's Arm Guard nerf, but we've also got that nerf to Orianna a few patches ago, where when you have your ball on your head, you have less resistance. So armor, magic resist, these are both down, so it doesn't matter if you're against a mage or against an AD champion in the mid lane, you are going to take more damage. But it's not just the enemy mid laner you have to worry about. You have to worry about the enemy jungler, the enemy support going for a roam, and because you're getting Phase Rush less often, and Seeker's Arm Guard isn't giving you as much armor as before, what does this result in? More deaths, more Ls. Now, in higher levels of play, the fact that your mythic is down 200 gold is great because you get to that mythic spike earlier, and you are a good lane bully if you can play Orianna. I'm not saying she isn't. But again, for 90% of us, like playing in lower elos, if you're in bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, even some games in higher elos, Orianna is just very difficult to make work when there is so much stuff in the game that can kill you. So she comes in at number 3. Now, beating her to the number 2 spot is the worst ADC in the game. And I reckon I'm going to cop some flack for this, but I don't think I've seen a Caitlyn in low elo do well like ever. Seriously, like I've never seen them pop off. You know, she's meant to be this lane game bully, and she is. Like, you have to win lane to win on Caitlyn, otherwise it is GG. But I can't remember the last time I saw a Caitlyn win lane. Like seriously, you die once, it's over. Because you are that high pressure lane bully. You have to win lane, right? Then you have to carry game by rotating top, then your jungler gets rift-tailed and you rotate mid and you get these towers, so on and so forth. And this is what happens in higher elo and pro play. But in low elos, because the game is such fiestas, you can't really control it. So even if you do win lane, let's say, and you come out of it good, like every other AD carry on this list, you still don't do the damage that the other AD carries do. So if you think of Tristana and Kog'Maw, that DPS is absurd, right? Caitlyn is nowhere near it in terms of damage. And in terms of survivability, yeah, you may have your E, but this can get easily interrupted. And even if you do E, you're still going to be slowed if you get hit by like a Stridebreaker, for instance. So I just think Caitlyn is way too high risk and high reward. And also, lots of people think she's easy to play. I'm telling you, she is not. There is a big difference between a very good Caitlyn and a bad one. So she comes in at number 2. Now, the number 1 champion, I don't think I've mentioned this amphibian really at all in any of these videos this season, but coming in as the worst champion in 11-14, guys, is the champion who is getting reworked a little bit. He is getting adjusted. So coming in at number 1, guys, for the worst champion in 11-14 is Tahm Kench. So stay away from him unless you have a fetish for toads, or if you're a Tahm Kench one trick, and there are a few reasons here. So the passive damage you now have is lowered, and it's a big hit into melee support matches because pretty much every other melee support like Leona, Taric, Nautilus, Braum, these do more damage than you. So in terms of a kill threat perspective, yours is nowhere near anyone else. Now with your Q, even though it gives you a passive stack and heals, the slow is weaker. And think of your support, like you're picking Tahm Kench, you're picking your support to really peel your ADC and to harass and create kill opportunities onto the enemy champions. But with a weaker slow, this is just worse. Your UW as well really isn't that practical, because if you are fighting in the bot lane in a 2v2, like when are you ever going to use your W in an actual fight, right? Like it has channel time, it can easily get interrupted, and it's nowhere near as useful as other melee support's abilities. And this is why Tahm Kench, guys, has like a 45-46% win rate in the game right now, and next patch this really isn't going to change that much. Like he's a little bit better off in terms of quality of life, but in terms of actual power and carry potential, which is really what we care about, nothing is really going to change. So Kench in at number 1. So those were the worst champions of 11-14, guys. Please let me know in the comments any thoughts you might have. And until tomorrow's video, this has been the Jizz. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.